And yet paradoxically it is a holy encounter, for through this darkness you are being initiated into the mysteries of the self. The narcissist's cruelty becomes the crucible through which your soul discovers discernment. His rejection forces you to find within yourself the love you once begged for. His manipulation trains your intuition into mastery. What he meant for your destruction becomes your awakening. But first there is anger, a deep righteous anger that rises like thunder from the depths of the unconscious. You will want to destroy him, expose him, demand justice from the universe. Do not fear this fire. It is sacred. For too long, the empath has been taught to equate spirituality with passivity, forgiveness with amnesia. But in the alchemy of individuation, every emotion is a messenger of transformation. Anger, when purified of vengeance, becomes clarity. It burns away the residue of illusion and leaves only the essence of truth. In dreams you may see the narcissist as a trickster, a shadow yester wearing your face. This is no coincidence. The trickster archetype exists in all of us. It is the aspect of the psyche that deceives to protect, that lies to preserve a fragile identity. The narcissist lives entirely within this archetype, trapped in the performance of his own myth. But the empath upon awakening reclaims the trickster as an ally. You learn to see through deception without becoming cynical, to discern motive without losing compassion. You will begin to sense how society itself rewards narcissism. The world admires masks more than authenticity. Success is measured by image, not integrity. Even spirituality has become theater gurus who preach humility while worshipping their reflection. This collective narcissism is why the empath's awakening is so threatening. To see through illusion is to withdraw consent from the dream that sustains the false gods of this age. You become a living anomaly, an unprogrammable soul in a world addicted to validation. When you withdraw your light, the narcissist feels it like death. You are his mirror, his oxygen, his proof of existence. Without your reflection, he must face the void within. He may attempt to hoover you back with words of repentance, gift, or nostalgia. But understand, this is not love. It is hunger. He does not return because he misses you. He returns because he misses the way you made him feel powerful. The moment you see this, the spell is broken. In this moment, something ancient awakens in you, the archetype of the wise one, the one who sees but no longer saves. You begin to observe without absorbing, to love without losing yourself. You realize that empathy, when bound by boundaries, become vision. You no longer pity the narcissist. You understand him. You see his grandiosity for what it is. A child's cry for recognition amplified by adult power. You do not hate him because you have seen his shadow and recognized your own reflection within it. For the truth is uncomfortable. The narcissist and the empath are twins born of the same psychic wound. Both are children who were unseen. The difference is that one chose to inflate the ego while the other dissolved it. The narcissist became addicted to admiration to escape shame. The empath became addicted to understanding to escape guilt. Both lost themselves in the eyes of others. Healing begins when the empath stops rescuing and the narcissist stops performing, though the latter seldom reaches that point willingly. You may wonder why he fears you so deeply. It is not your love that terrifies him. It is your perception. Love can be manipulated, but perception cannot. When you see through him, you deprive him of the illusion that sustains his existence. You become the mirror that reflects not beauty but truth. And truth to the narcissist is annihilation. For beneath his masks lies the unbearable emptiness he has spent a lifetime denying. You are the reminder that he has no self, only an echo of admiration. And yet your task is not to destroy him, but to transcend him, to recognize that his fear of being seen mirrors your own. For as much as you wish to expose his falsehood, part of you fears the same exposure, the revelation of your own hidden motives, your own dependency on being the healer. The narcissist's mask crumbles when you remove yours. This is the final alchemy, two illusions dissolving into truth. From this dissolution, compassion arises, not the sentimental kind that forgives too quickly, but the fierce compassion born of eye and sight. You no longer seek to change anyone, for you have seen how all change begins within. You no longer chase approval, for you have tasted the freedom of self-recognition. You become sovereign over your energy, a guardian of your own sacred space. And when you love again, it will not be from need but from overflow. At this stage, many feel a strange loneliness, as if awakening has exiled them from the human play. But this solitude is not isolation, it is integration. You are not withdrawing from the world, you are returning to it without illusion. The empath who has seen through the narcissist becomes a teacher, a healer of clarity. You walk among the masked, not as their enemy, but as their mirror, radiating the silent light of truth that needs no validation. In mythic terms, this is the descent into and return from the underworld. You have faced Hades and survived. You have eaten the fruit of awareness and cannot go back to innocence. But now as you ascend, you carry a new gift, discernment. You can see the soul behind the smile, the wound behind the performance. You are no longer deceived by grandeur or undone by cruelty. You have become whole, and wholeness, my friend, is there, rifying to the false self. The narcissist fears your wholeness because it exposes the fragments of his own. When he looks at you now, he sees not the adoring empath, but the reflection of everything he lost. Your peace becomes his punishment, your silence his mirror. He cannot stand it, for in your stillness he encounters the one thing he has always fled himself. But you must not gloat, that would only remind you to the same illusion. The true victory is not in his downfall but in your transcendence. The moment you no longer need him to validate your pain, you are free. The dance ends not with revenge but with understanding. You see now that he was never your enemy, only your shadow teacher. He came to show you the places within yourself that still sought permission to exist. The emperor's light, once naive, becomes now a sacred fire discerning steady unto Chebe. You realize that compassion without awareness is servitude, and awareness without compassion is cruelty. The balance of the two is mastery. You no longer open your energy to every cry for help. You listen instead for truth, for not every cry is genuine, and not every wound wishes to heal. You have learned that love without wisdom, dom breeds bondage. And so the final mask falls not from his face, but from yours. You see that the world itself wears this mask. The mask of endless validation, of success without soul, of influence without intimacy. You no longer participate. You become the witness who sees through the theater of personas. This is what it means to awaken, to stand in truth. Even when surrounded by illusion after the fire, there is a quiet that feels almost foreign. It is the hush of your inner landscape, no longer echoing with another's demands. You may mistake it for emptiness, but it is not emptiness, it is spaciousness. You are beginning to inhabit your own soul. For the first time, your empathy no longer extends outward in compulsive offering. It circles back, forming a sacred orbit around your being. You begin to see that the healing you sought to give was always meant for you. This is the stage where the empath integrates the shadow. It is a solemn and luminous work, for what has been projected must now be reclaimed. The narcissist has served as your dark initiator, forcing you to confront the disowned fragments of your psyche. The pain you felt under his manipulation mirrors the very pain you inflicted upon yourself each time you betrayed your intuition to be accepted. You realize now that your gift of sensitivity was never the problem. Your denial of its boundaries was to integrate the shadow, is to descend into the underworld of your own motives. You must ask, why did I need to be the savior? Why did I believe that love meant enduring pain? Why did I call surrender faith when it was really fear? These questions are not accusations, they are doorways. Each one opens to an unhealed wound, a buried archetype seeking redemption. Often what we call empathy is the survival instinct of the inner child. You learn to read emotions as a way to stay safe, to anticipate danger, to earn affection. Sensitivity became armor disguised as compassion. But now as consciousness expands, you can see how this adaptation, though once necessary, has become your prison. To continue overfeeling is to remain enslaved to the world's emotional currents. To awaken is to realize that your empathy is meant to serve your soul, not consume it. In Jungian symbolism, the shadow is not evil. It is unlived life. Within the empath shadow lies rage, power, autonomy, and the right to say no. These are the qualities the narcissist despised in you because they threatened his control. But they are also the qualities you secretly feared within yourself, for they contradict the image of the good empires you clung to. Integration begins when you invite these banished forces back to the table. You sit with your anger not to act it out but to listen to its wisdom. You embrace your power not to dominate but to stand firm in truth. You discover that real compassion includes the self. Without it, love becomes self-erasure. You see now that pity is not compassion. It is disguised superiority. The empath who pies the narcissist still operates from illusion, still needs to feel important by healing what does not wish to be healed. True compassion requires equality, the recognition that both light and darkness belong to the same divine fabric. When you can look at the narcissist and no longer feel compelled to save or destroy him, only to understand, then you have transcended the polarity. In this space of understanding, forgiveness arises naturally, not as moral duty, but as liberation. Forgiveness is not forgetting what happened. It is releasing the psychic tie that binds you to the drama. It is the realization that no one truly escapes their own unconscious. The narcissist is enslaved by the same wound he inflicts. His arrogance is his armor against shame, his manipulation, his desperate attempt to maintain coherence. To see this is not to excuse him, but to comprehend the tragic architecture of his psyche. The empire's awakening, however, must not end in philosophical detachment. Awareness must become embodiment. You must bring your insight into the realm of action. This means setting boundaries not as walls of bitterness, but as temples of sacred energy. Every time you say no without guilt, you realign with the order of the self. Every time you withdraw your energy from what does not honor you, you affirm your divine sovereignty. The world will resist this. Those accustomed to your boundless giving will call you selfish. The narcissist will accuse you of cruelty. Society will label your discernment as coldness. But understand this, they are speaking from the perspective of the mask. They cannot yet comprehend that love grounded in truth feels like loss to those who live by illusion. Stand firm. The empath's task is not to please the world, but to awaken it and awaken. Eyeing always begins with discomfort. As you integrity your shadow, you will notice an alchemical reversal. The energy that once leaked through empathy now returns as intuition. You no longer absorb emotions. You perceive them. You sense the motives behind words, the hidden tension in a smile, the subtle vibration of deceit. But this perception no longer overwhelms you, because you are anchored in your own center. You become like a clear mirror reflecting everything, absorbing nothing. This is the empath's ascension, the transformation from emotional sponge to conscious seer. At this stage, dreams take on a different texture. No longer nightmares of pursuit or abandonment, but symbolic initiations. You may dream of retrieving lost objects from water, of finding hidden rooms in your childhood home, of walking through doors that open into light. These are messages from the unconscious announcing integration. The psyche, once fragmented by projection, is reassembling into unity. And then perhaps without warning you will encounter another narcissist or something that resembles him. But this time your reaction will be different. You will not feel that magnetic pull, that intoxicating sense of destiny. You will feel a stillness, a neutrality that surprises you. What once seduced you now appears obvious, almost theatrical. The performance no longer entrances you because you have transcended the need for it. This is how you know you are free. The narcissist, remember, fears the empath who sees through him not because of moral judgment, but because such seeing dissolves the illusion of power. But what he truly fears, though he would never admit it, is that same gaze turned inward. He fears his own soul. In your journey, you have done what he refuses to do. Descend into your darkness and emerge whole. You have met the God within yourself, and nothing terrifies the false self more than divine authenticity. And now you begin to sense that this entire encounter was never about two people, but about the evolution of consciousness itself. The narcissist represents the old paradigm, the egoic human fragmented, addicted to image, terrified of inner truth. The empath represents the emerging paradigm, the awakened soul feeling, seeing, integrating, refusing to live by illusion. When these two meet, a cosmic tension unfolds. The narcissist tries to devour the empath's light, but the empath, through suffering, learns to transmute darkness into awareness. Out of this conflict, a new level of consciousness is born. You are part of this evolutionary movement. Your suffering was not meaningless. It was initiation. Humanity as a whole is confronting its narcissistic shadow, the denial of the soul, the worship of appearance, the addiction to validation. The empath's awakening within you mirrors the collective awakening of the species. Every time one human being chooses truth over illusion, empathy over control, self-awareness over projection, the final mask of humanity weakens. Do not underestimate the power of this inner work. It ripples through the collective field. the healed empathy that exposes deception not through confrontation but through resonance. Falsehoods collapse in the presence of authentic energy. You become a living antidote to the sickness of the age, a being who neither worships nor despises power but channels it through consciousness. There will come a moment when you look back and realize that the narcissist gave you the greatest gift yourself. For had he not mirrored your blindness, you might never have sought your sight. Had he not drained your energy, you might never have discovered your inner source. Had he not betrayed you, you might never have learned the sacred art of self-rust. Thus, even the wound becomes sacred, for it carried the seed of your awakening. And now, as you stand upon this threshold of rebirth, you feel an ancient knowing rising within. Love, when purified of illusion, is not a feeling. It is a force. It does not cling. It liberates. It does not rescue. It reveals. It does not feed on admiration. It feeds on truth. This is the love the narcissist could never embody, but that you were born to remember. You are no longer the empath who sees only suffering. You are the awakened soul who sees purpose in every shadow. You no longer walk into mirrors hoping to be seen. You walk as the mirror itself. The final mask has fallen, not from another's face, but from your own. And what remains is not pain, not fear, not need, only consciousness, vast and luminous, watching the play of the world with quiet compassion. When the soul has endured the crucible of awakening, something profound begins to happen. The empath becomes luminous from within. It is not a glow born of pride or superiority, but the radiance of one who has faced the abyss and returned with understanding. This is the stage where you no longer seek validation through seeing others. You see through them. You have become vision itself. What once felt like a curse, the burden of feeling everything, now becomes your sacred instrument of discernment. The awakened empath moves differently through the world. You no longer react to the chaos of others. You witness it. You are no longer seduced by charisma or dramatics, for your eyes peer through to the archetypal essence behind every mask. You see, not the persona that pleads for recognition, but the wounded God behind it, the fragment of divinity that forgot its source. When you look at a narcissist, now there is no anger, no pity, no fascination. There is only comprehension, the kind that knows every mask is a symptom of separation from the self. In the language of archetypes, you have now crossed from the healer to the sage. The healer suffers to understand. The sage understands to free. You no longer need to prove your worth by mending others. You recognize that each soul must walk its own labyrinth of mirrors. You can offer insight, but you no longer mistake guidance for rescue. Compassion comes less about alleviating pain and more about awakening consciousness. For pain that is truly seen transforms. The narcissist cannot comprehend this energy. To him, connection is always a transaction, a stage on which roles must be played. But you no longer play. You simply are. The power that terrified him most was not your empathy, but your authenticity. Authenticity annihilates illusion because it refuses to participate in it. That is why he feared your gaze. To be truly seen is to die to the persona, and few are ready for that death. Yet your journey is not merely psychological. It is spiritual. For what you have encountered in this dynamic is the drama of the soul's return to unity. The narcissist represents the fallen aspect of consciousness, the part of the divine that became enamored with its own reflection and mistook it for reality. You, the empath, represent the remembering aspect, the one who feels the pain of that separation so deeply that it becomes the path back to wholeness. Your confrontation is the reenactment of a cosmic myth, the reunion of the fragmented self with the light of awareness. But do not think that enlightenment means detachment from humanity. The awakened empath does not retreat into isolation. You are called to walk among people, to embody this new awareness in ordinary moments, in how you speak, how you listen, how you hold silence. Your very presence becomes transformative. You need not preach or persuade. The light of consciousness communicates without words. You will notice how the world begins to mirror you differently. Where once you attracted wounded egos, now you draw souls seeking truth. The old magnetic pull of chaos fades, replaced by synchronicity. Conversation deepen, encounters become meaningful. You will begin to meet those who have also walked through their own underworlds, fellow initiates of pain who now serve as mirrors of strength rather than lack. This is the soul tribe, not bound by blood or belief, but by resonance. And yet you must remain vigilant. For the shadow is never banished, it is integrated. The narcissist outside may vanish, but the archetype remains within. It will test you through subtle forms, pride in your awakening, superiority in your detachment, spiritual vanity disguised as wisdom. You may begin to believe that you have transcended the ordinary, that you are above the illusions of others. Beware, that is the ego returning through the back door, wearing a halo instead of a mask. The true measure of awakening is humility. The awakened empath knows that light and shadow are eternal dance partners, that each contains the seed of the other. You do not escape the duality. You learn to balance within it. You no longer seek to destroy the darkness. You learn to hold it, to understand it, to let it teach you what light alone cannot. This is the wisdom the narcissist could never grasp. That wholeness is not purity but integration. Integration does not mean passivity. It means alignment. It means that your choices arise from awareness rather than reaction. You set boundaries without anger. You forgive without naivety. You speak truth without aggression. You understand that love and power are not opposites. They are two expressions of the same divine current. The narcissist used power without love, and you once used love without power. Now within you they unite. And this union is what the mystics have always called the sacred marriage, the inner alchemy that births sovereignty. Sometimes in meditation or dream, you may feel the presence of those who once wounded you. They appeal, are softer, almost childlike, stripped of their defenses. This is not illusion. It is your psyche reconciling with their archetype. You have withdrawn projection, and so their energy returns to its original form, a wounded part of the collective human soul. You feel compassion, not attachment. You bless them not with sentimentality but with understanding. For you know that, until they face their own mirror, they will remain prisoners of their performance. You may also notice how your empathy evolves. It becomes wiser, less emotional. It is not the empathy of rescue but of awareness. You can sit beside someone in pain without absorbing it. Listen to manipulation without reacting. Witness cruelty without losing faith in goodness. This is mastery not of others but of your own energy. You have learned that the true empath is not one who feels for others, but one who feels with creation while remaining rooted in selfhood. And this selfhood, you individuated self, is the greatest revelation of all. The self is not the ego's inflated image, nor the martyr's empty vessel. It is the divine center around which all opposites revolve. It is the axis mundi, the still point that connects heaven and earth within you. When you live from this center, you become untouchable not because you are armored, but because you are transparent. Energy passes through you without distortion. Truth flows effortlessly. You become, as I have often said, a channel through which the universe contemplates itself. It is here that the empath fulfills their highest purpose, to serve as consciousness made flesh. You were not sent to heal every broken soul, but to remember wholeness in a world that has forgotten. You were not meant to save others from their darkness, but to walk as proof that darkness can be transformed. Your story of survival becomes a myth of renewal. You no longer tell it with pain, but with awe. As one who has seen the machinery of the soul and emerged reverent, this perhaps is the final irony. The narcissist who sought control becomes the instrument of your liberation. His manipulation pushed you toward truth. His deceit sharpened your discernment. His rejection forced you into self-love. Every wound was an initiation disguised as betrayal. You realize now that the universe speaks through contrast, that what the ego calls enemy, the soul calls teacher. And so when you ask why did they fear me, understand this. They did not fear your light because it was bright. They feared it because it was true. And truth, when embodied, dissolves everything unreal. The narcissist's empire of illusion could not coexist with your awakening. Your seeing unveiled not only him but the falsity of the collective persona that sustains him. You were the crack through which the greater light entered his constructed world, and that light terrified him, for it whispered of the death he refused to face, the death of the mask. But you do not need to watch that death. Your journey continues beyond it. You are no longer defined by opposition, no longer bound by roles of empath and narcissist, victim and oppressor. These were only stages in the grand theater of individuation. You have stepped off the stage and entered the real, the realm where souls meet without masks, where love needs no performance, where being itself is enough. And yet there is one last truth. The empath who has seen through the narcissist must eventually see through themselves through the identity of the awakened one, through even the story of transformation. For the soul's final act is surrender, not achievement. The true seeing is not I see through you, but I see through me. Beyond all masks, beyond all mirrors, there remains only consciousness infinite, unbound, endlessly observing itself in every face, every story, every reflection. And in that stillness there is peace. The drama ends. The soul rests. The empath becomes what they always were. Awareness witnessing itself. The final mask falls not with a sound but with a breath. And behind it there is no narcissist, no empath, no wound, no mirror. Only the eternal gaze of being, seeing through everything, fearing nothing, loving hold.